Hello, thank you for watching Teddy Out of Tune. My name is Faridah Gbadamosi, and I am the U.S. Indies Programming Fellow at the 43rd Mill Valley Film Festival. And I'm very excited to start this Q&A. So I'm going to have them introduce themselves. So, like, Daniel, introduce yourself and what role you played with the film, and then I'll get Drew in.
Sure. My name is Daniel Freeman, and I directed and edited and shot the film.
And Drew?
Hi, my name is Drew Connick. I was the human on screen, and I helped write the story.
Great. So the first question, I'm just going to get into it. Like, we are dealing with a hybrid film, which is like this really new and interesting way to like tell stories. So I guess my first question is, how much of it was real and how much of it wasn't? I remember watching it the first time, trying to figure that out. And then also, like, what led you to this particular style of filmmaking?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with the second question, just because I feel like a lot of people, ask about the hybridity. And I think a lot of it is just, we did it that way because it was kind of the only way we could pull off a movie. I just didn't really have the skill set, let alone the funds to shoot something that would be traditionally cinematic, or, something where the suspension of disbelief happens and you don't realize cameras are there. So we just kind of had to adopt our flaws and our shortcomings and sort of lean into them. And in documentary, the audience is so forgiving of little audio miscues or shaky camera or, that sort of thing. And honestly, it was just fun. Drew's just really good at off the cuff stuff. So it just kind of played into our hand of, just kind of trying to turn our shortcomings into charming things and just going from there. But in terms of what's real and what's not, it's kind of interesting. I'm still trying to figure it out a little bit on the back end, but I think it's more like every scene is like partially real and partially fake. It's like some scenes are 70% real, 30% fake, like some are 90% fake, some are 100% real. It's kind of like, I mean, we really did just let it go off the fly and just kind of, the only barometer for what we thought was good is if it felt real. So that was just kind of what we were going for.
Yeah, there's a part in the middle of the film where I discuss with another character about a form of theater where you make a character out of your worst self and then get to exercise your demons through a weird acting exercise. And that was literally a description of the film. So yes, so in a sense, it's all symbolically true. Which parts of Teddy's life are real and fake is, just up for me and Daniel to really know. But all of it is symbolically true, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great. I think the film does such a fantastic job. I had to like check back multiple times when I was watching to be like, this is a hybrid. Like, I'm not like and I felt like Teddy was a very real person. And I thought you did such a fantastic job crafting that character and playing that character. So my next question is, how did the two of you meet? I know you have a fun story as to how you both came to this project.
Dang. Well, so Drew and I just kind of, Drew has a more like a real acting background and things like that. But we actually met just kind of doing manual labor and things for film festivals, like bigger film festivals. They hire production crews to like, just, as Faridah, like just drive around couches and boxes of wine and like build theaters. And so, Drew and I did a contract in Utah and then a contract in Colorado, and they're both 4-week contracts. And then the one in Utah, we just drove trucks and we were roommates and just, you just kind of shoot the shit and get to know someone in that environment. And then we made a short film that was kind of a similar hybrid thing. And it was just really kind of effortless and fun. And Drew and I really synced up, I think, emotionally. And then we had another 4-week contract driving trucks, just same gig. But this one was more remote. It was in Telluride. So we just had all this kind of weird time to be like, let's work on a new movie. So then we just kind of thought of it while we were working. And honestly, it's like we literally came up with it while we were driving a truck. It's like, it's just about a dude driving a truck. So it's like, we just kind of leaned in again into like what our reality was. And we didn't, want to build some fantasy world. It was just kind of like, how can we shoot a movie the simplest way possible? And because that's kind of how we met, under sort of humble, like just picking stuff up and putting stuff down for money. So that was our life, you know?
Yeah. I just had a really strong cup of coffee one morning, and I started doing an Irish dialect, and just like improvising in an Irish dialect. And Daniel was like, "You're really good at that." And I was like, "Oh yeah, like I'm an actor." He's like, "What? You're an actor?" And that was the genesis of our whole
Yeah.
film collaboration.
You know, for so long in my life, I was like, if I just meet one actor, like I'm set. You know what I mean? Like, cause I don't know, I grew up in Oregon, like not really around Hollywood. So it's like, I don't just like meet actors all day. You know, it's like when I met Drew and like we became friends, I was like, damn, this is like my first friend ever who's good at acting. I was like, I'm going to try to get him to be in a movie, you know, and it just totally worked out. You know, we got 2 under our belt now, and we still are on speaking terms. So, you know, everything's pretty cool.
Well, I mean, it seems like it was kismet, because the film just really does feel like a really wonderful collaboration. Speaking of that, like, what was it like, the filming process? Like, how did you, like, how long did you shoot for? How much travel was planned for the shoot? Like, what was the actual process?
Yes. We could probably talk a lot about this because our production was so strange. You know, it was also, I'd point out that we'd probably been working on the film for about a year before we started shooting, which is pretty customary, I suppose, for films, from what I've heard. But we did a lot of like sort of test shoots, almost just like feeling each other out, feeling out the visuals. And some of the Super 8 that we actually shot on some of the more like test location scouting trips actually did make it in there. So we had just kind of shot that. But then the real heart of the production was 2 weeks. It was sort of the end of July, beginning of August. And I drove down from the Bay. Then Drew and I linked up in LA, went to Arizona, and then cut all the way back up the West Coast to Canada. So that took us about 2 weeks of driving and kind of stopping and shooting at all the different locations that we were at. But I would say it was noteworthy because of the time of year. It was 100+ degrees pretty much everywhere we were. And Drew's truck, which was, you know, our mode of transportation, it doesn't have air conditioning. And it was just like a religious like event of like just having to dig deep. And like, to be honest, like it was so much more hard work and like gruesome than I thought. I thought it was going to be like a really fun time with my boy Drew, but like it was super, you know, like we're just like crying in the desert and sweating, and you know what I mean? It's like, it was super rough, but like, you know, I think we came out of it the other side, like probably like 15 pounds lighter, and like, you know, with a lot of baggage to unpack. And like, I think I'm starting to feel some of the healing that we're after now and everything. But like, it'd be interesting to hear Drew's perspective, you know, because he had to be this dude the whole time. And it was definitely really difficult, you know, it was a challenge.
Yeah, it was hard. It was hard in the beginning because, you know, we had conceptualized it for so long, and I was sort of planning on sharing, you know, a lot of my real life in a way that I never really had. And then once you're actually out on the road doing it, and Daniel had put so much time and energy into it, that it was just like, you know, I just wanted to collapse most of the time, especially with the heat. But yeah, aside from the sort of emotional, like, you know, whirlwind or hurricane, like the production was, like, looking back on it, it was so much fun. I'd never been up to the Pacific Northwest, first of all, which was really, really beautiful. And we met all these, you know, like the woman who plays piano, that was a total accident. She just heard us, you know, filming and came over. So there were all these really beautiful experiences along the way that just, like, you know, just came out of nowhere. We saw a rattlesnake. That was really cool. So yeah, so, you know, despite the emotional intensity, there's so many moments that I look back on just like it was like one of the most fun road trips I've ever done, let alone, you know, but it was by far the best movie I've ever been a part of. So yeah.
Speaking about like some of that, like turmoil, what was it like stepping into that character and interacting with people who, well, first, I guess my first question is, when you were interacting with people along the road, did they meet Drew or did they meet Teddy first? And then what was it like playing that character as you were traveling? Did you find lines blurring along the way? Like, how did you feel playing that role while also being on that trip?
Yeah, everything shifted a lot in my normal day life too. Just like growing out a beard, you know, like I manage a laundromat in LA. That's my job. And yeah, like the way that people approach me, everything helped me get into the character over those months that I was growing the beard, because people assumed that there was, you know, some emotional baggage beneath the curls of my beard. Um, so, so yeah, so everything, you know, like the, however long leading up to it really helped me sort of figure out how to step into that kind of seamlessly. And then when, you know, like when we were shooting, it was just kind of natural for me to just like assume it really wasn't too hard, you know, to just like kind of like, there was, I was the same person kind of the whole time.
Yeah, I would say like from what I was able to observe, you know, as just someone that knew, I guess, Drew pretty well, and then the character Teddy pretty well. It's like, you know, just because like Drew was saying, he did look so unapproachable, I guess, to some people. And like, you know, we would have to go to grocery stores and stuff, you know, between, you know, like these shots. And like most of the time we're like in the middle of the forest or the desert, and it's just not a problem, where we kind of blend in certain parts of the country. But, you know, we're going to like Trader Joe's in Santa Rosa on the way to, you know, and it's just like the security guards just like follow Drew the whole time he's in the store, you know. It's like, and it's like, I don't know how much Drew was showering during our production, but like it was, you know, it was just like a whole situation, you know. It's like, and another thing with the heat, it's like there was just so much delirium and like the hybridity of like what's real, what's fake, and like what do we still need to shoot. And like I know there was always kind of like with the production, we knew that we were going to shoot some really emotional, heavy scenes like in a day or in 2 days. And like there was always kind of that anticipation too. But I feel like once we had a few good days under our belt, like we kind of got some momentum. And Drew was definitely brought up something that's true, that like the beginning of the film was super difficult, just kind of catching your bearings and kind of grappling with the expectations versus the reality of what you're making. But I would say one of the biggest turning points was when we got the actual piano that was in the back of the truck, because it may seem like we had that piano, but like we were actually scrambling and we needed a piano like in the middle of production basically. And we were calling Goodwills from our motel room in Arizona. And then we got this $99 piano in Goodwill. So that kind of like saved our movie. And once Drew like had that device to, you know, shred on and be Teddy with a piano in his truck, I feel like it was just all kind of sailing at that point, you know?
Everything looks, this is the magic of movie making. Like it doesn't show on screen. Like so much of it feels like so like very, like everything felt like it all just naturally occurred. Which is all that blurring of the lines that go through the film. So I think that was just done really well. One of the things I really enjoy, well, not, I guess enjoy is the wrong word, but I like that at the end you kind of play around with expectations where you think you're getting towards the end of the journey. And then of course we have a pit stop. So I wanted to know, like, when into the writing that particular scene, like the story itself, like what brought about the story, and then like how was that always the ending that you wanted for the story? That there would kind of be a moment where like there's a bit of a breakdown and then you get to the end.
You mean like with the hitchhiker and the fighting and stuff like that? Yeah. Well, I think I learned a lot about storytelling from Drew in the writing process, because I was just more of like a whippersnapper, like just kind of going about my day. Like I didn't really know what I was doing, but Drew had this, what was it, Drew? You said like the false positive of like stories when you think everything's kind of going to work out, and then you kind of have to reckon with maybe some truth or some of the tension. And I think when we leave Aaron, our friend Aaron, does such a beautiful job in the film, and they're a really good example of kind of what's real, what's not. Their scene that they did with us. But when you leave Aaron's sort of beautiful place, you're kind of on a nice run with Teddy where everything kind of feels like romantic. And we kind of wanted the audience at that point to be like, dang, you know, like I wish I was Teddy. Like I could just drive around. Like it's all cool. Like I just connect with strangers and everything's beautiful. But then, so we were just like, obviously that's not true. Like obviously Teddy also knows that a camera person's following him. And we kind of like wanted to play and explore sort of like self-destructive behavior, which is when things are going really well, it's sort of a tendency, you know, to kind of blow it up and attract maybe some of the things that, you know, are obstacles in your life. And I think like picking up that hitchhiker and kind of gravitating towards that energy when he could have maybe even just stayed at errands or like just kept driving. You know, I think that kind of said a lot about Teddy and his shortcomings and some of the obstacles that, Drew and I in our own lives have to face, and that we kind of put into the character for sure.
Yeah. I think in the writing process, I really wanted to, Daniel explained it pretty well, but I wanted to explore the idea of self-deception, especially with an audience. I think it's really just noting from my own life, like it's really easy to explain your trauma to someone. And when you have an audience, you can sort of wrap it up in a bow, and like, it's this part of you that you understand, and it's hard to deal with, but you get it, and it's all good, and you can make it sort of this this scar that's on your heart that's pretty beautiful to show people. And I just noted in my own life, like I talk about this to some people, certain things, like I understand it completely, and then it rears its head, and I'll behave in a way that I totally didn't expect, or an old pattern will emerge, an old self-destructive pattern. So I thought it was like really important that we sort of showcase that in some way, and have this like weird self-deceptive, like backlash. And originally I tried to convince Daniel to get the hitchhiker to steal the truck from me, to like, the vehicle that's bringing you towards catharsis actually gets ripped away from you. Yeah. That's what I wanted, but we settled on just a fight instead.
Yeah. And I wanted that too, but I just needed that flexibility in that editing room. And, if the truck's gone, I can't do anything, you know what I mean? No, it's funny. I mean, it goes again too with kind of like what Drew's saying of like, we were really figuring out the scenes like every day. I think waking up every day, it's really funny with Drew and I's relationship. We've like spent so much time in like different places. Like we're always on the move, or like in a different state or in a different environment. And it's just disorienting, the experience of making this film. It's like, we wake up every day. It's like, I don't have a producer or like an AD running around, keeping schedule. It's like, it's kind of all in my head, and, it's kind of like a drug fueled crazy journey. So it's like, it's not like I'm the sharpest tool in the shed either. It's like just having everything sort of organized up here and not knowing what you're going to shoot that day. It's like, we were supposed to shoot the digging up the ashes scene like at any point, but that just kept getting knocked out. It's like the last thing we shot, just because it's like, you never know when you're going to find like the right space or time to shoot something. So it's like this never ending scene list of like, when are we going to shoot this? So it's like, you kind of just have to be ready and keep your eyes peeled while you're driving on the road, which was fun, but also sort of disorienting.
Yeah.
How long was the actual like road trip, like the production?
2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Yeah. So I think by the end, I really had reached the end of my road, like of like turning the camera on and, listening to Drew talk and stuff, and I'm sure that we had reached the end. Like, I think we were just done, like we spread the ashes, and like, yeah, it was a good time. I think physically, like we didn't have enough food or like water on us. Like, I think we like literally needed to go to like replenish, you know what I mean? It's like, it just wasn't a very traditional set. And, like we were definitely riding some wild young energy. Like was our fuel. I think we were like 26, 27, 25 kind of during the heydays of me and Drew, like linking up and working on a lot of this art. So it's like, we just, absolutely didn't know what we were doing. And we didn't really know how to take care of ourselves that well. But, I think, if we were to do it again, we would totally like be super cognizant of our health and like our feelings and stuff, but I'm glad that we did it this way. It was such a beautiful learning experience. And like, obviously I care a lot about Drew's health and like just our relationship and him being a cool guy and him using his talents. So I thought Teddy Atun was, a success at the end of the day for sure.
I definitely agree. Was the last shot you shot the scene of putting the ashes in the water? Was that the final scene? Did you shoot mostly in chronological order?
Mostly, yeah, mostly. Okay. There was some things I had to do in the editing room just to make the film kind of make more sense. The scene with our friend Nick and his daughter Avea, we actually shot that pretty early on. And that was in Arizona, actually on the border of Mexico and Arizona in Nogales. But in the editing, I just said it was in Oregon. But more or less, it was pretty much chronologically the way it was, I would say. But yeah, there was just some things like I thought it would have been maybe too early in the film to see, Drew like kicking it with this little kid. Like I kind of wanted to put that later to show the audience is softened up to him by that point, But yeah, it was pretty chronological, which made it easier to do. There was definitely a literalism. Like when I watched Teddy Atun as the person who lived the experience, like I feel like it's just kind of what our experience was. Like the movie was what we experienced, which was kind of what I relied on in the editing room, was just kind of being honest to the feelings and the moments that we actually did, experience. So yeah, it was cool. Yeah.
And then throughout the film, and I guess this is all playing with the real, there's scenes, of course, with individuals who are like blurred out. Were these like, was this an intentional editing choice, or were these people who actually just didn't sign releases?
No, well, that was our friend Peter, who actually is an actor. Okay. And that was that going into it. We weren't going to do that. It was just going to be like, just a guy like any other person in the film. But Peter's not, a hitchhiker, and there was like, there's this like realness to everything. But I just thought it was just like an interesting kind of funny thing to do in the editing room. And like, I just thought it kind of worked. And if there was ever a point, where maybe the film wasn't feeling real, it was probably when like these two dudes are like slow motion wrestling, so I was like, I don't know. I feel like it feels extra real if I blur this guy's face out, because then it's like, why would I do that unless I had to do that for a documentary? Because, as the editor, like looking back on it now, I'm not as fussed about it, but like, I just really wanted people to finish the movie and think it was 100% real. And I just thought that the blurred out thing like assisted that. And Peter, was really fun and a super big part of the movie. And like, I thought his performance was sweet. I just thought that little like extra thing kind of, brought it out and kind of played into our hand of kind of like you were describing when you're watching the film of like, isn't this real? Like, that's just we just kind of wanted to be pranksters and like do that, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very well done. I mean, I figured, but for the other actors in the film, were there people that you like knew as well? Are they all like part of your like circle of actors, or did you find some of the people, like you mentioned Pearl, like were there other people you kind of found along the way? Who were acting, but like you, in the process of making the film, they kind of like the energy matched and they were the sort of person you wanted to add? Or was most of it planned out before?
Yeah, a few of them were planned out. Aaron and Peter were my friends from acting school, and they were definitely planned. Nick, I met shooting a movie in Arizona, and he was actually like I think the production manager and was head of like props, and he was like a weapons specialist, and we just got into these amazing conversations every night. He went to Harvard for neuroscience, and then like dropped out to become a performance artist, and like I don't know, he was a very weird guy. I just loved him. So I was like, this guy's got to be in our movie.
When he's got a kid.
Yeah. So and then Melissa and a few other people were just people we found along the way that weren't planned for at all.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then, so in terms of like, so both of you were in the writing process, and you mentioned that there was a lot of fluidity when you were shooting and some of the stuff was being done as you went. How structured was your script before you started the trip? It could be unstructured. It was just like, I'm just trying to like feel for how much, like, because you said you were working on it for about a year before, and like I know that you were a resident, so you were doing all the stuff to like prepare for it. But like, how much do you think the preparation helped? How much do you feel like came about like truly like in the filming process? Like were there more like were all your lines scripted? Did you feel like you were like connecting with individuals and then the lines came to you?
Well, I'd say like for the traditional script writing process that we definitely played with that. in the development stage, as you were pointing out. Just because, you know, it's kind of hard to convince people that you're going to make a movie if you don't have a single, you know, page of script. They're just going to be like, what are you doing? You know, but I would say maybe like 4 scenes were written, more of the confessional sort of Teddy scenes. But, you know, I'd say that 99.9% of the dialogue is just Drew improvising.
Nice.
And yeah, so, I mean, which obviously lended itself to the realness, but it's also a huge testament to, you know, Drew's talent and his ability to kind of connect with people on the fly and to be vulnerable and to say things in interesting ways that you don't really hear people talk like a lot of the time. So it was cool for me to shoot and just be surprised by what was going to happen, you know, which is kind of, I would imagine, how a regular documentary filmmaker feels, is they don't know what people are going to do. They don't know what people are going to say. They don't really know where the energy is going to flow in the room or how long the energy is going to last. So, you know, I was just kind of following Drew's lead when it came to the words that were being spoken. But I think like the mother's ashes and maybe just like some of the like more plotty, not that this film's too plotty, but I just had like that as like basically an idea for a while for a really low budget feature film, just because I thought it was such a simple thing to structure a film around. So we just kind of like had a foundation and then just started plugging things in and then just kind of relied on, you know, the universe to collaborate with us. You know, it's like Drew said, like Melissa Vardy coming to hang out with us, you know, it's like, you know, it's like 10 minutes of the film. It's like, you know, we didn't know her. You know, we just don't have closed sets, I guess. Like if someone wants to, like, if someone likes our energy and they, you know, magnetize towards us, it's like, welcome to Teddy Out of Tune. You know what I mean? It's like, you're in the movie, like, thank you. And it's also like, it's nice because, you know, as beautiful and talented as Drew is, it's like, it gets a little tiring to just hear the same dude chatting all day. So like, you know, just to get some new blood and some new experiences. And it's like, you know, at one point, Melissa, like, you know, connects with like mental health and music and the past. It's like, it's kind of like the energy we put out into the universe was returned to us. And we just kind of, we're going with the flow. You know, at a certain point, we just submitted, I feel like, and we didn't really have control over anything, you know.
One last thing, just Daniel, just to give you an idea of how DIY it was sometimes. Daniel would send me these emails with just questions, and then I would take my iPhone and just record, like voice record answers. And that's like a lot of what you hear in the movie. Yeah. It's just me alone in my room in LA, like like
high tech.
Yeah, high tech improv.
It's true. Yeah, I think like speaking on sort of that, it's like I think a lot of our motivation in the film was just kind of challenging you know, money norms, technical norms, like the amount of people that you need to make a movie. And, you know, it's like I made the music on GarageBand, like Drew just said, he, you know, record the voiceover on his iPhone. You know, it's like I had a shoulder rig, you know, for this film, but it broke within like the first 3 days. So I had to carry around the whole camera like this for 10 days. And I had like major tendonitis for like 2 months in my shoulder, you know. Like it just like, you know, it was, I guess it hardened us or whatever, but it was a fun time, you know. But we didn't have any fans or anything, but we had each other, you know, and I think that's what you realize is the most important, you know. You got a camera that turns on and you got a person that's interesting to say stuff, and you're golden after that.
This one's like a more fun question, and then we'll get to the final question. But like, what was your favorite thing to shoot? Or like to do? Yeah.
My favorite was the ashes and the end.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, I don't know if you've been up to the Pacific Northwest. That place is so beautiful. It's like you just know that it's like no matter. I mean, it's just gorgeous, and the water was freezing. So Daniel had to come out in the water with me. He was like shivering. And he had a GoPro. And he's like,
yeah, damn.
That was, and it was like the whole culmination, like the whole movie, this like 2 weeks of madness, a lot of like hot desert weather culminating in this like swirling, like emotional, you know, freezing. Yeah, that was my favorite. Yeah, it was like hyperventilating. It was good.
Yeah, you know, that was definitely one of my favorites. you know, there's just a few times, not to get too gushy, but like, you know, like Drew's performance just moved me to tears on several occasions, you know, especially in the intimate nature that we're shooting. It's just me and him, and some of the things that we're talking about, or, you know, some of the challenges that we're going through together. It's like, I just feel really lucky as a filmmaker and a storyteller to have experienced this project. And just to have had, you know, basically 4 or 5 times that I was moved to tears by, you know, what Drew was sharing with me. So I just don't know if that's ever going to happen to me ever again, you know, as a filmmaker, but I know that, you know, I really cherish those. And I think that those things, you know, help make me a better artist and a better person. And yeah, like those were tough in the moment, but looking back on it, I really am grateful, you know, for Drew's performance and what we were able to share together, for sure.
That's lovely. That's really sweet. But thank you both for sharing so much. So my final question I try to ask is always, what's next for the film, and also what's next for both of you? Because I really love this film and I want to see whatever you're doing next. So like, what's happening?
Yeah, dang. You know, so we're embracing the virtual festival grind, you know, and, you know, thanks to Mill Valley, and this has been a lovely conversation, and it's been really well organized and everything. And at first definitely was like, dang, you know, in-person festivals is all where it's at. And it's like, I am having very cathartic, fulfilling experiences, you know, connecting with the film festivals and the programmers and having these conversations still. So that's really beautiful. I think that Drew and I would be open to, you know, playing festivals for as long as, you know, is reasonable, and having these conversations and sharing the story. And I think we have some like humble dreams with distribution, but I also think that Drew and I could probably both be very pleased with what we've already accomplished with this film, just knowing kind of maybe like the underdog status that we had, and some of the things that we already did. It literally is, the journey is the gift, you know, and we already had the journey. So, but, you know, we do want to, you know, put in a reasonable amount of effort into getting eyes on it, while not being too eager. But yeah, I just kind of realized at this point, there's so little you can control with that. But if you're a film festival programmer, or if you're a, you know, a film lover, you know, just like talk about our movie and share it. And we'll just kind of be patient and play it cool, and just share with whoever's interested. And, you know, that sort of thing. I'm not sure what Drew has to add to that.
For Teddy, I mean, yeah, that's Daniel's gig. I got the laundromat to take care of.
That's true. Yeah.
And then next projects, are you cooking up anything else? Are you going to do another collaboration between the two of you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see what Drew does, you know, like, because Drew and I, we don't live in the same place, and we both make our own work for sure. But I definitely would love to work with Drew again. I think now that we have this project out of our system, it's less of like an eagerness, and it's more of like to see what kind of happens organically. I think we just need to like have another road trip to the South or something and see kind of what happens. We'll figure out a movie. But yeah, we're both writing scripts and things in the same spirit. And I know I'm excited to just see kind of what Drew does, you know, with documentary filmmaking and things. And I think we're both still quite young, and we both plan to be, you know, interacting with the medium of film for a while. And you know, Teddy Atun was a good milestone for both of us, but I think that we're pretty dedicated to, you know, the progression and things like that. So definitely stay tuned, and we'll be around for sure.
Yeah, I was just in this movie with Carrie Brownstein and St. Vincent called The Nowhere Inn. I'll quick plug on that. That's pretty cool. It was at Sundance this year. But then, yeah, beyond that, my manager dropped me like in February. This is like the best year I've had, most successful year I've had as an actor, and I got dropped. So I'm like, you know, dreams are back at square one. But no, I'm writing a lot, and like just trying to keep up the momentum. This has definitely been like a big like I don't know. It's just like the promise is in your own hands. You know, it's like if you have a camera and a weird guy named Daniel Freeman to hold it, then you can make a movie that will go to the Mill Valley Film Festival. So
it's true, yeah. you know, I'll vouch for Drew Connick right now. You know, if you're a film director, or if you're a talent manager, whatever that is, you know, I would hitch your wagon to Mr. Connick, you know, because every time I hang out with Drew, you know, the universe opens up. We see animals, you know, we cry, we laugh, you know, and I think that's kind of what movies and life's about. So, you know, if you're someone looking for a weirdo like Drew, I vouch for him.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both so much for being so honest and telling us so much about your process. And I really love Teddy Out of Tune, and I'm very excited to see what both of you do next. And thank you, everyone, for watching Teddy Out of Tune.
Great.
Thank you, Faridah.
Yeah, thanks, Faridah. And thanks to everyone, you know, at Mill Valley Film Festival for planning. And I know that so many people's jobs are affected, you know, in this industry. And just want to say thanks. You know, we definitely feel the effort and the support, you know, despite everything. So just holding on for dear life and still a believer in the future of film. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you. All right.